gang, Space-Time Badass here. Believe it or not, it is me. I finally trimmed the beard, but those of you who follow Team Lucid Dream will have seen this a few days ago. Hopefully for my tenure sporting this facial hair, I can be the most righteous of dudes and do it justice. When I hit 1,000 subscribers, I did the live stream where I asked you guys what kind of things you would like to see more of on this channel, to which you responded you'd like to see some more beginner topics. So starting now, I'm going to go back into the more beginner topics and cover some of those, because I honestly did neglect to do those because I wanted to be the lucid dreaming channel for intermediate to advanced lucid dreamers, but I guess it does really make sense that in order to get to that stage to where those videos are useful, you do need some information on how to actually reach that point. That's why for this video we're going to be talking about how to decide which method is best for you between wild and dialed. For anyone who's unaware, a wild is a wake-induced lucid dream, meaning you go directly from the waking state into the dreaming state via wake back to bed. And a dialed is a dream-induced lucid dream by which you become lucid after the dream has already started. Wild, of course, is its own technique, but there's also filed, which is a form of wild, and specific techniques are considered a wild technique if they involve you once again going from the waking state directly into a dreaming state. And of course, dialed is mainly a mild or mnemonic-induced lucid dreaming, and likewise a dialed is any technique that will allow you to go to sleep normally but realize that you're dreaming while the dream has already occurred. Namely, we're going to be talking about mild, which is mnemonic-induced lucid dreaming. It's when you go through the reality checks in the dream journal, of course, as always, but at night when you lie down in bed, you tell yourself that you will realize that you're dreaming. Now, I already have a video on how to decide which mild affirmation is best for you, so go ahead and check that out if you haven't already. There's also a visualization aspect to mild. After you do your affirmations, you are then supposed to visualize the kind of dream that you would want to be in, but I've always forgone that, and it's worked fine for me. I'm not a big visualization person, but if you are, you can employ that as well. So how do you decide if you should be doing a wild or a dialed technique? The hard and fast rule that I like to use is a question, basically, are you just starting out? If you are just starting out, then I would always recommend a dialed technique, again, specifically mild. It's just way easier to get into lucid dreaming that way rather than dealing with all the things that wild brings up. If you're just starting out and you do wild, the chances are you're not going to be very successful with that if you are like most people, but again, everyone is different, so there is a chance that wild could work best for you when first starting out. So if you've tried the dialed techniques and you're not getting anywhere with those, it never hurts to try the wild technique as well. One thing I will say, that wild I think works better if you already have a background in meditation. So if you're already a really good meditator, then you might actually want to start with wild that way, because it's a lot easier if you have that background in meditation and staying aware. That way you can stay still and aware as your body transitions into sleep while keeping the mind awake. So if you're great at meditation, you can start with wild. But if you've been lucid dreaming for quite a while and mild's working great for you, I would suggest sticking with that. But if you do want to experience the wild, it's at that point I would say you should go ahead and try that as well. For me personally, I always just say do what works, and finding what works is a lot harder than doing what works once you already know. But again, if you've been successfully lucid dreaming for a good period of time, I'm not going to say specifically when, but when you feel comfortable that you have been able to achieve lucid dreams with ease, I would say at that point you are ready to try wild. And I always recommend, if you're starting a new technique or just starting out in general, no matter what technique it is, I recommend staying with that for a minimum of 2 weeks to see if it does work for you. And when I say a minimum of 2 weeks, I mean trying it every single night for 2 weeks. This is quite a small time frame, and for some people it will be a little bit longer. That's why I say a minimum of 2 weeks, but 2 weeks is enough to kind of gauge your progress and see if you think this is something that can be successful for you, or if it's something that you may not want to try or want to save for later. So again, to recap, if you are just starting out, I always recommend a dialed, specifically mild. Or if you've been lucid dreaming successfully for a while, you can then start wild. Or if you've been trying the mild or any other dialed technique for a long time without any progress, I would say at that point go ahead and try wild as well. Lucid dreaming is very individual, so it will always take a little bit of experimentation on your part to see what exactly does work for you. But once you find it, I say again, stick with it unless you just want to try something new. But if you do fail with that something new, you do know it worked and you can always go back to it. That's all for this video, guys. I hope that it has helped you out on deciding between wild or dialed. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, as well as subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget that you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at SpaceTimeBadass. And if you want to help the channel out, you can also check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/SpaceTimeBadass. And until next time, take it easy.